Okay, and we are live. Hey there, friendlies. How's up? Welcome to the, I believe, second whiskey tasting live stream at Dribs and Drams. Again, I have with me Scott Green from Cocktails at Home.
Hey.
Those of you who discovered him from my last live stream will definitely be enjoying the content. Those of you who haven't, get over there. Lots of good cocktails happening. He's also rocking the TikTok, and I'm not. I'm on the TikTok, but I'm just like, I put something up every 12 years.
Oh man, TikTok
You're just moving it.
It's weird. It's a strange world, man. It's you never know what will be a popular video on there. I had one video that basically kind of blew the page up a little bit, and it was about putting like horizontal ice in a glass, and I didn't even do it right, but it just exploded for some reason. So I put up like 50 videos since, and they get a few views, but yeah, it's who knows. I haven't figured it out. But
yeah, my first one that I put up there was like I threw all this work into recutting. I think my first whiskey review, making it real short, just like a whole bunch of jump cuts. Taste like bim 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 bim. Nothing. I just sort of did one off the cuff, messing around with how to pronounce Scotch names, right? Ladeg. Ladeg, doing every one of them wrong, and that's the one that I've got like a half dozen comments or a dozen comments on. It's like, okay, I know what TikTok does now.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. I did the same thing actually. I experimented with trying to take like the longer format videos from the YouTube channel and cutting them down to a minute, and it's kind of crazy to do that. Like it really kind of just sucks all the goodness out of it. But man, it's just kind of, I think there's a lot of good stuff on there. There's a lot of great channels that I do follow on there, but I think a fair amount of silliness is probably the way to go.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm seeing a lot of silliness on there. And for some reason, I keep ending up with, there's some maybe 50s, in her 50s, Newfoundland woman there. And like her entire thing is, she lives in Alberta.
Okay.
Because half of Newfoundland lives in Alberta now, it seems.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all like, here are sayings when you're dissing the hell out of someone. Here are sayings when you're like, your mind is blown about something.
Right.
And it just seems that like, if I can get into the silly side of whiskey tubing, maybe my TikTok will explode more. But
it's a good idea.
Trying to recut a review like that was not, was no good.
Yeah.
So what we are here to do tonight is to taste two whiskeys. I haven't tasted either of them yet. The story here is Scott and I decided to do a whiskey exchange. I would find a whiskey that's local to me here in Quebec or Montreal. There were two that I was looking for, one that I'd had before. I found the one I haven't had before, but could only afford one bottle, so I sent it to Alberta. And then I found another one after the fact. And in return, so what I sent him was a single malt from Maison Civaux, which is not in Montreal, but it's pretty close. It's in Quebec. And so Scott sent me the Northern Eyes whiskey from Hansen, and I believe this is 100% rye, right?
100% rye. Yep.
Okay. That's the way I like my rye. For the longest time, my favorite Canadian whiskey, because I've never really been patient with Canadian whiskey, because it was always like Crown Royal and garbage like that. Mixers, right?
Yeah.
So my favorite Canadian whiskey was always the Lot 40.
I love Lot 40.
I love me some rye. Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Lot 40 as well, man.
Yeah. Now, Maison Civaux also makes a rye, and it's an award-winning rye. But it's like one of those 2 to 1, right? 2/3 rye, 1/3 malted barley.
Okay.
So I don't know. If it's award winning, obviously it's very good. But I like my rye to be rye.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree. I like a good 100% rye as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The Hansen guys. I dropped into the distillery when I went to go pick up your bottle there, and grab the one for myself, and they recently just released a cask strength version of this, And I thought to myself, oh, I'd really love to send Jess this because I know that you'd like the cask strength.
I do like me
I
some
think,
cask strength.
yeah, I think you'll like this as well. But it's you know, and I will say, so you know, this isn't my first time tasting either of these. I know it's your first time. I mean, I'll be opening this bottle for the first time, but I did a sample there while I was at the distillery. So I sampled, you know, this bottle and the cask strength, and I have to say the cask strength was pretty awesome. It kind of went outside of the bounds we had set for our whiskey exchange in terms of price, and shipping is expensive as well. And so I thought so I thought that this would be a good way for us to, you know, at least get into it and talk about them. But yeah, I think they did. I think they've done like 200 bottles of the cask strength. They just released it like 2 weeks ago, I think. So
that's got to be somewhere around a C note, maybe a little north of that, right? 110.
Yeah. I think they do like I think it's $97. I think they're doing it for and it's 65.4%.
Nice.
Yeah, you know, non-chill filtered, obviously, because it's the high alcohol content. No caramel color in either of these, in either one of these. With this guy, I think it's at 43%. So I think they do the chill filtering so it'll be clear. I think 46 is ABV is the point where you can kind of get away with not chill filtering. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because I hold on a second. Forgot to turn my light on. I just noticed that I was a lot darker than you. What I wanted to say was I don't like chill filtering even in the lower ABVs. I like to have a little bit of cloudiness there when you get into colder temperatures or you toss a little water in.
Right.
And it seems that for, you know, the whiskey anoraks, it's sort of moving that way. Those guys like that too. But if you're just trying to sell whiskey, you know, generally it makes perfect sense to chill filter it so that because everyone is used to Macallan, right? Do you know what I'm saying? That's what people think when they think whiskey. It's like smooth as hell, middle of the road, clear as hell.
Yeah,
you know, and that's sort of what the baseline has become for a lot of people.
Yeah, and, that makes sense.
But the point I was going to make is that when Canadian whiskey was terrible to me, my favorite Canadian whiskey and kind of the only one I really liked was that Lot 40, and I still like the Lot 40.
Yeah, it's very good. There's been I think a real renaissance in Canadian whiskey. You know, in the last while. I mean, I've sort of awoken to it in a little while, but I'm sure it's been going on before that. But there's a lot of good stuff coming out of all kinds of corners of Canada, and it's really exciting, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of places I want to try. I just picked up a bottle of is it called Okanagan Distillery?
Okanagan Spirits.
They're Laird of Finty.
I've never tried that. I'd love to try it. I think we had a conversation about that. I tried their hopped whiskey before, and I loved it. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to opening.
So that. What was it you picked up there? Sorry,
the Laird of Finty by Okanagan. It was just it seemed to be like none of these guys have a whole lot of whiskeys out, right? Like Maison Civaux has 4, right? They have the single malt, the rye, and then the selection version of each of those, which is the better barrels and stuff. And then Hansen here has like a whiskey, a vodka, some flavored liqueurs and stuff like that, but like one whiskey, right?
Gin. Yeah, they have one. Now they've got they have one whiskey and then the cask strength of this whiskey. Now they were telling me that they have a 5-year in barrels right now.
That sounds interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I noticed, because this is only a 3-year, right?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure the Civaux is probably something that young as well, but I believe that they're both in virgin oak. And one of the reasons you don't see a lot of people pining for a 10-year-old bourbon is because they're done in virgin oak. And so they get oaked like boom, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, so a 3-year-old bourbon is oaked like maybe a 5 to 8 or maybe even a 10-year-old Scotch, right? Because they're in barrels that used to be full of bourbon and stuff. So they don't get that sort of the initial virgin, you know, that spicy kind of, well, not spicy, but you know what I'm saying, that big initial oak.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know, so I'm interested to see what happens with these two.
Yeah.
You know?
What should we? Do you think we should pick one and pour it and let it kind of sit for a while?
Well, I'm going to pour it both and let them sit.
Okay. Yeah, you know what?
Um,
I can do that as well. Although I don't, I only have one Glencairn. I have a Norland glass here, but I kind of want to drink both out of the Glencairn. I should buy another one.
I tell you what, I can send you one. I can courier you one.
No, it's all good. I'm going to grab one. Actually, I want to pick up, like Glencairn makes a Copita.
Yeah, they sure do.
I want to get one of those. I'm a fan of stemmed glasses, man, in general. Something fancy like that.
Yeah, I like a stemmed glass too because I don't like to touch the bowl of the glass with my fingers.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want the heat of my fingers to change the experience with the whiskey or the wine or what.
Yeah,
it
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it stems. So, yeah, I'm gonna open up Hansen. Yeah.
Oh, I wish I'd done that closer to the.
Oh, did you get a good pop?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Okay, I'm pouring the Sivo into one Glencairn, and I will keep that one on the left. You know what? I'll just put the bottle in front of it so that I can see it.
Let's see if I can get a little pop going here. Oh boy,
that was a nice pop.
That was lovely.
Okay, so I've poured the Sivo there. This is a nice touch, by the way, with the Hansen. Two little recipes.
Yeah.
Two good recipes, too. Is it with the Toronto, which is a classic, and a Blackberry Whiskey Smash, which I'm going to try. Yeah, it's funny because I find that most whiskey tubers don't review the way I do, like popping open an unfamiliar whiskey for the first time on camera and doing the neck pour. It seems that everyone likes to spend some time with the whiskey before doing their reviews.
Well, yeah, I have to say, actually, you're a brave man for doing that. I'm not sure that it's one of those things where I'd feel like I'd want to spend a bit of time with it too. Like you can see with the Sivo here, I'm into the shoulder pour. So our experiences might be a little bit different. Who knows? I'll get a shoulder. Yeah. Because when you first sent this to me, we hadn't made plans to do this as a live thing.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity in the studio. We were working on a single with the band I'm in, and it felt like a celebratory moment. So I popped it open and poured a few drams for people. So I did crack this one, unfortunately, before this live.
Oh yeah, beauty. The Hansen is a nice pop. Yeah, and I'm just jealous that you got to share whiskey with friends.
It is the way to do it, my friend. Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you had a much more open ability to see people, whereas we've been bunkered since last March. So
yeah.
Okay, so I got 2 glasses in front of me. If you want, I mean, you can just pour one. We'll do that one, and then you can just swish it out with water. And we'll do the other one.
Yeah, I poured a little bit in the Norland, but I probably would prefer to do that maybe. But yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah, that works out fine because then at least it's in a glass and it's opening up while we're talking. You can just
yeah.
I have those Norlands as well. I want to do an episode on this, but I'll just very briefly say that this to me is a much better tasting glass.
Yes,
but that is a much better enjoyment glass, right? Because you can talk to someone and take a sip, whereas with these guys, if you're taking, you sort of have to break eye contact so you can get the juice down,
Yeah, I think I picked up these Norland glasses when they were a Kickstarter thing, and that was sort of what they were explaining. It's like the Glencairn. It's a very personal kind of by yourself dram sort of experience. Yeah. The Rocks glass is a great social glass. It's got this sort of thing. It's a good, but I mean you're getting no nose when you're drinking from that.
Yeah, everything just sort of disappears into the ether.
Yeah, so they tried to kind of split the difference, I think, and I kind of like the sort of the double walls. That's kind of neat for not transferring heat from your hand.
Yeah, I like that aspect. Yeah, they are expensive though.
Yeah.
They are. Whew. So, what do you want to taste first?
Well, I did pour I poured the Hansen into my Glencairn first.
So let's do that one. Okay.
Cool.
One thing I want to say about the hands, okay, I spent a decade and a half in design before I switched into writing.
Okay.
And so I want to say that this is a very Quebec looking bottle. This design is very, very sort of like there's a lot of this kind of design here. Okay. It's got a slightly old school European look to it, you know. Quebec loves to do that. I'm not, it's really changing. There's a lot more artsiness happening now, but that, you know, it's fine. This has a real cool bourbon look to it.
Yeah.
That's a Western Canadian bottle if ever I seen one. You'd never see that come out of Quebec, man. That's
like
got
that, a Western
cool,
Canadian bottle.
Oh man, look at that. That's you know, it's got the I half expected to say balcones or something on it. You know,
yeah, it is very cool. I love the the eye, like the almost like the third eye thing going on there. It's a very sweet label.
Yeah, very nice, very nice, and it gives a lot of information right there on the front. You know, tells you where it's from, Edmonton, Alberta. It's 3 year. Handcrafted with 100% Alberta rye grain and aged in a single American oak barrel. So this isn't finished, right? This is just aged in one barrel and that's done.
One barrel and then it's out. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about the barrel for the Sivo a little later. Okay. I'm gonna go in. It's funny because I've said on my channel several times that if I'm not doing an episode, there's that rule of thumb, a minute per year. Just leave it there.
Okay.
But I'll leave anything there for just 15 minutes and do stuff before I'm ready to go. But that's a rye, right?
Oh yeah, you get right away some spice, some sweet.
Yeah, sweet spice. There's a caramel in there, but it's not. With a lot of the more traditional Canadian sort of mixer-oriented whiskeys, the caramel has kind of a synthetic taste to it.
Yeah, like a syrupy.
Yeah, like that caramel syrup you throw into coffee, right?
That's not this. This is this feels a little bit more, I don't know, like a more authentic caramel, not a syrup. Yeah,
caramel, a little butterscotchy, but there's a spice there. This is definitely a rye. I'm not
Alberta rye.
Yeah. Am I getting a leather?
So I was going to say that, and
there's just like an upholstery note there. That
I get that, like a like a new leather kind of.
Yeah, like a new leather
on the nose. Yeah. It's a nice nose.
Yeah, it's very nice, very nice, and it's very present. It's what's this 43%?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really stands up nicely for a 43%. There's a pepper. I always get pepper with rye, so like 100% rye. Lot 40 is pepper too. Yeah, I get this as cousin of Lot 40.
But that kind of makes sense.
But different still.
Where's Lot 40? Where are they? They're in Ontario?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's something in there that I'm.
And is this natural color, did you say?
Yes. Yep.
It's a beautiful color for a natural color, let me tell you.
Yeah, no caramel color added. Just some light filtering where it's at 43. They want to keep it clear. Yep.
There's a slight turpentine note there. That's, I guess, what's the term for that note in whiskeys? It's not a sulfur, but yeah, I like it. Well, I guess that's the alcohol or the.
Yeah. I'm getting, I'm when you say turpentine, I mean, it's so interesting with tasting, especially when you're tasting with somebody, you sort of have this, you get this play off one another. So when you said, turpentine, I sort of immediately got the oak kind of came to me,
That's the thing, because it's brand new oak that this goes into. It's got a lot more sort of that side of it that I'm not really that used to, because I don't have a lot of experience with whiskeys that are aged in, like, I have very little bourbon experience.
Right. Yeah,
Very little.
that's exciting though. We should do some bourbon as well, because I've drank probably, well, I don't know if I would say drank more bourbon, but I drank bourbon longer than I've drunk Scotch. I
Okay.
was drinking bourbon. My dad was a bourbon drinker, and it was always in the house. So when I was a teenager, I would steal his bourbon and then fill it up with water, up to a certain level. So
Yeah.
I've been drinking it since I'm a kid. So I definitely have tasted a lot of different bourbons, and you're right. There is a similar note in this that you'll find in a lot of bourbon. And I think it's the
The
new
virgin
oak. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it compelling. It's something new to me, and I find it really compelling. All right, I'm
Yeah,
gonna give it
because
a
like
taste.
let's go for it.
Wow, that's lively. Boom. Oh,
Yeah.
it's like the first thing that hit was like right at the front. A lot of spice. That virgin oak. That is
Yeah, a lot of wood, a lot of wood, a lot of spice.
a lot of tannins, a lot of stuff, and then like I get like a burnt brown sugar right after that, a little further back, like on top of a creme brulee or something like that.
Well, you know what? So that's so funny. You're gonna say that, man, because I'm gonna try it one more time, but I have something that I think is in line with what you just said. I was gonna say a bruleed banana, like banana pieces of banana with sugar on top, torched. That's what I get.
I can see that. I'm picking up a banana now. Maybe it's because you said it. Maybe it's because it's really there. But yeah, I definitely.
But it's
further
funny
at
that
the
you
back.
said
Further at the
brulee.
back. Yeah. I have upstairs a beverage, like an eau de vie from Haiti, that has so much burnt banana in the taste that it's not overpowering. Well, the drink itself is overpowering. I don't remember what it's called, but I find like a lot of like I think a lot of Jamaican rum has a funky banana thing going on.
Okay. Yeah, definitely not like that. It's not banana forward or anything.
Yeah, but it's at the back.
Yeah, on the finish.
Yeah. Dry though. Very alive. Dry, spicy. Got the sugar thing. Goes back to the banana.
Yeah, they've timed it well. It's got a good, sort of by the time you finish your sip, it sets you up for the next one well.
Yeah. And I gave myself a bit of a generous pour here by accident. Maybe I was excited to be trying something new, but
it's Friday night.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah. I still feel that a bit of that leather is there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally, again, it's so funny when you say that, boom, there it is. It's like, absolutely, new leather, like, absolutely. There's something else in there.
Oh, I want to say hi to Brandon Cosman. Nice to see you.
Hey.
Brandon shows up on occasion. Always nice to see a familiar name. Also, flour, eggs, and yeast.
Yeah, if we have any, I think my comments are a little bit behind yours, but yeah, are you able to see? Do we have some people logged on here? Or?
Yeah, there's a few.
Good. I think. Did you ever smoke in your life?
No.
Never a smoker. So I used to smoke like years and years ago. For I probably smoked for 10 or 15 years myself, but I haven't smoked in probably that long. I get a little bit of tobacco.
I can see what you're saying, but to me, I don't get burnt tobacco. I get the smell of the leaves, like before.
Yeah, like the fresh tobacco, like if you were like if you were like rolling your own, like
I recognize that smell. Hey, Quebecois family, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Quebec is the smoking section of Canada. Do you know what I'm saying?
Like, oh yeah, I almost fell over. Yeah, like making your own rollies.
Yeah.
That's what we would call them in Newfoundland. Is making rollies.
Right.
That's sort of, you open up the pouch and you get a little bit of that. in there, and that's a pleasant smell, you know.
Yeah, I have my dad used to smoke drum.
Okay.
Comes in a little bag there.
Yeah.
He would roll his own. I went when I was in university. Okay, I went to a very pretentious program. I have a communications degree from Concordia, and one of the teachers rolled his own. This was in a poetry class, and he rolled his own because he was a professor. He wasn't rich, but like within 3 weeks of the start of school, all like 3 or 4 of these guys who are like poets as well, they all started rolling their own as well because the teacher was. I was like, that's not why he's doing it, guys. It doesn't make you a better poet.
Right, exactly. It's kind of a power move to pull out a pouch of tobacco and roll your own smoke, though, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, I recognize it. Yeah, it's not the burnt tobacco. It's the fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's that's behind the banana though. The banana's bigger for me.
Yeah, it's towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes in. And
But,
I get a little and here's the thing. With a lot of whiskeys, especially in scotches, right at the back I get an espresso note.
Right,
and
you
I
said that
wonder,
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with scotches, I get it all the time. And I wonder what it is. I wonder if I'm mistaking malt for that or something. Something that's very malty, because I'm not very good at figuring out what the center of the malty note is. And so I
Right.
wonder if I'm mistaking that for an espresso note. Except I always see malt as being of a more I'm not doing well with the grammar tonight. I've always seen malty as having more of a cereal character to it. So I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I think I've tasted that characteristic in whiskeys before, more of the cereal. You know, I haven't gotten the espresso, but again, it's so interesting because it's what sort of flavors that sort of ran through your life that you're going to draw from as well when you're tasting.
Yeah, that is very important. And you know what you just reminded me of? Okay, we're talking about coffee here, right? We're talking about a hint of coffee at the back end. I've never been a big coffee drinker. I'm a tea drinker. When I'm feeling a little hoity-toity, I'll have a latte. But the way and the way I make my wife's coffee in the morning is one of those stovetop, what's it called, a mocha pot?
Mm-hmm.
You take it in half. If that's the way I had discovered coffee, I would be a coffee monster. Okay, and it's because when I first discovered coffee, the earliest memory I don't have a lot of memories from when I was a kid. We're not going to go into that, but the earliest memory I have is we were still living in Franco, Manitoba, and my dad was getting up to go to work. He was a carpenter, so he would start way early in the morning, and I woke up way earlier than I usually did. I think it was spring or fall, and I looked down the hallway, and the only light in the house that was on was from the kitchen. So I saw the light from the kitchen going across the hallway and up like the outline of the door, just a light. Yeah. And I smelled my dad's coffee. Now, my whole life, he doesn't do it anymore. But at that point, my dad and then my wife, my mother, when we came back to Quebec, it was always, that cone filter, the plastic cone filter with the paper in it.
For sure.
And so when I discovered coffee, I was so let down by the fact that it didn't taste the way it smelled that I was like, no way. But when you do use something like a French press, I always grew up calling it a Bodum or that mocha pot or something like that. It does taste the way it smells. And the way French it smells is so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sort of coffee guy. I try not to drink as much of it anymore, or I limit myself to a cup a day, because I will stay up all night if I drink coffee past 2 p.m. I'm up all night. So and I spend long days in the studio. I'm quite content to play music and drink coffee all day. That's a good day. Yeah. but then I don't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to limit it back. But you're right. I mean, there's a wide range of coffee out there.
Yep.
French press is sort of the way I make it at home, but yeah, I don't get the espresso note in the whiskey as much. But I maybe I'll start now. Who knows?
Well, I do want to say that because I'm just sipping on this because I just want to keep going. I was going to see if we were going to add water, but why ruin a good thing?
Well, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I would definitely not add water to this whiskey.
No.
We could do it for the sake of seeing how it changes it if you want. But at 43%, like I wouldn't even really think about doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm up for it if you want to. Can I just say too, mouthfeel?
Yeah.
Good oil. Like it
Good
feels
presence. Yeah.
Yeah, feels good.
Yeah. And I was expecting that because I see how it sort of coats the glass, and it's not all tears, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's one here, one there, but it's nice. That's why I was doing this before, and sort of.
And there's something funky in there. There's a little bit of funk. Like I don't know what it is. Can't put my finger on it, but it's just I don't know. Maybe it's coming from the banana, but I feel like the banana is more the sweet brulee banana. But there's like a earthy funk in there that I like.
Mm-hmm. And I get that a lot with rye, right?
Mm.
There's a real sort of an earthy green thing happening with rye, and I definitely get that. And it's funny because it like I take a sip because I'm loving it, and the first thing that hits is the spicy oak, the virgin oak spice. Then immediately it goes into sort of the earthy, not really herbal, but vegetal.
Mm.
And it's almost like the further back it goes, the more it changes. Because right after that, that's when I get the brown sugar thing, you know, a little caramel, butterscotch going into the banana, which is probably why, like you, I'm getting a toasted sort of sugared banana, a brulee thing. And then at the back is the other notes that we were talking about. But it's nicely dry. So it's sort of big, and then it sort of tapers off.
Yeah.
You know?
It's nice. It's nice. So what do you think? Do you want to add some water? Because I've already finished mine. So I'll put a little bit more in.
Okay, I'll put a bit more in. And yeah, we may as well.
Do we do it?
Well. Yeah, for the sake of science. I mean, I do it with every video, even though I would never add water to something I'm just drinking for enjoyment's sake. Well, actually, I say that. What I should say is I have never met a whiskey that I would add water to willingly.
Mm.
But if something's at like a 68% or something, I may have to add some water.
Yeah, there have definitely been whiskeys that I've done it too, but this one I did not see the need, but we should do it to see how it changes things. Have you added some?
Yeah, I just added a couple of drops.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Just a little bit.
You know, if you're fast enough and you do it and then you look, you can sort of see sort of swirlies at the top where it's affecting the volatiles.
Right.
Okay, so that brings out the spikiness.
It does.
Because that's all the stuff that's trying to get the hell away from the water, right? It's shooting right up. There's still a caramel thing happening underneath it, but it's not as interesting. It's lost a dimension in there somewhere, which I was prepared for. That seems to be what happens all the time.
Kind of the story with a lot of whiskey that you're adding water to.
Yeah. I find the leather's gone.
Yeah, I think the sort of that rye funkiness that we were talking about has sort of come to the forefront in the nose for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm expecting this to be a lot spikier on the tongue as well. Shall we do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because the spikiness is toned down a little bit, but it's still there. Sorry, the spiciness. Because it's not as spiky as it was on the nose. But it's like there's a real dip right after that.
Yeah, it was yeah, major spice and wood off the top like it was before, but maybe even more. And then yeah, a lot of the sort of the mid palate stuff
Just
for
gone.
me kind of dipped out. Yeah, like it
Yeah.
sort of the mid-range stuff just went away. And then I still got kind of some of the sweetness on the end. Like I don't think it didn't like ruin the whiskey to put a few drops in it, but
Didn't ruin it, but it hollowed it out a little bit.
it did. Yeah, I would agree. That's
Yeah.
did hollow it out. Yeah.
I find the finish is a lot faster too.
Not as interesting.
No.
I'll agree. Yeah.
So whenever I ruin a whiskey like this, I just glug it and go.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take some water to cleanse the palate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we should do these with like a charcuterie board. Little cheese, some nuts, you know.
Yeah. Just going to give my glass a little rinse here.
Well, I'm glad to have that bottle. I think that's a successful bottle.
That's a very, very good whiskey, I think.
Yeah.
Very happy with that.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's young. It's young. You know, you can taste the 3 years, right? It's still got that youthful vigor to it that, you know, an 18-year-old Scotch sort of mellows into the wood a little bit. And this
Right.
hasn't had a chance to do that yet. But I don't have a problem with that though. Like I did a review of the Ardbeg Wee Beastie, the 5-year-old, and I never thought I would like a 5-year-old. But man, that is a good for. Well, here's the thing though. I hear that Ardbeg these days is kind of uneven. So, you know, other people reviewed the Wee Beastie, and it's like they were reviewing something completely different because their notes were totally different than mine.
Oh.
Other people loved it, and it seems like, depending on the, well, they're not doing batches for Wee Beastie because it's core, but depending on which date you have, it seems like some is really good and some is really not.
Oh, okay.
So I lucked out, but man, I do love that, and it's got that youthful kind of, you know.
Yeah, there's something nice about it.
You know, take the cork off, and it comes out like, oh yeah, you want to go? You want a piece of me? Boom. You know, it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, energetic. They're doing so, like you said, they've got 5-year in the barrels right now, so we'll be interested to taste that when it comes out.
Yeah,
I think it's a couple more years before we'll see that. And I would love for you to try their cask strength. I think that as much as I like this whiskey, the cask strength, it's sort of like all the nuance and all the things that we sort of liked about this, it's just amplified.
right.
And at 65.4, it's smooth. Like I did sample it at the distillery, and I mean, I did not add any water. And I just kind of enjoyed it.
But it would probably hold up to water better than what we just had as well, though,
Yeah.
right? Because it's got there's more headroom there to play with.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess I'm about ready to try the Sivo.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, something I said to you in the green room before we started this that I find interesting is both these whiskeys, excuse me, both these distilleries have strong sort of successful immigrant family stories to them, which is, I didn't notice that when we were both buying them, but I just found it kind of interesting. Like the Sivo family, they were making fruit brandies in Hungary before immigrating to Canada, and Hansen, it seems like they were in the American Midwest or the West or something, and moved up, became bootleggers.
Yep.
So I find it interesting that they both have that thing in common, even though we had no inkling of that when we were buying these bottles.
No, that's kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sivo, like, they've got the farm. They're
yeah. Do they still make all the like brandy and stuff?
They don't do the fruit brandies that they did from. They have some. I'm trying to think, because they've essentially got 3 big bottlings, right? They've got a rye, they've got their single malt, and then they've got a rye moonshine.
Okay.
I've seen the rye moonshine, but I've never bought it because, as I said, in Quebec, everything is hard to find, even if it's local. What I had wanted to send you was the Rosemont Whisky de Montréal. But I feel that one, now that I've been tasting stuff since first buying that bottle, maybe that one's not quite as interesting as the Northern Eyes. That's for sure. I'll be interested to see what it's like compared to the Civo. If I find it, I'll pick up a bottle and send it to you anyway, just for the sake of science.
Oh yeah, well there's a few more that we can certainly try if we want to do this again. Like you said, there's a lot of Canadian whiskey that's up and coming, and the thing about whiskey is that, I mean, as a company, it's it takes so long to make. Like, it's got to sit in the barrel for literally years for it to be, So I mean, a lot of distilleries that are out this way right now are making gins and vodkas and brandies and liqueurs. Yeah, because you can pump those out, But a whiskey, I mean, you've got to sit that's got to sleep in the wood for many years,
Yeah. In fact, the Rosemont, the Whisky de Montréal, it's an uber small batch, like a true small batch. You know how everything says small batch on it, and that can mean anything. It's a small enough batch that when I finally sent them a note saying, was that like a one-off release? They said, no, it's just the batches are tiny. So when we send them out and they disappear, that's it till next year. So if you see it, grab it, kind of thing,
Yeah.
But most of what they do, they have like 4 or 5 or 6 different kinds of gins. They have a special gin that only comes out at Christmas. They've got a vodka or 3. They do a bunch of, I think they even make vermouth, but I'm not sure about that. No, I'm mixing them up with another local. But, whiskey is the one you put in the back, and everything else you put out while to keep the roof on the house kind of thing,
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I did want to say for the sake of the live stream is that the one major difference between these two bottles, one of the major differences, right, that the Hansen was a rye, the Civo is a single malt, is the fact that the Civo is finished. Okay, yes. So after it's spending what I'm guessing it's a 3-year in its virgin oak, it then gets finished in Sauterne barrels. I'm saying Sauterne. I don't know if that's how you say it in English, but
I think that's the way I'll say it, but I butcher anything French. But I believe I did do a quick YouTube, like I Google like how to pronounce it, and the English pronunciation, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Sauterne, I think. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I'm going to say, just for the sake of the of the internationalness. So Sauterne, so that's it's a European oak, which by default doesn't give you quite the same vanilla notes. It's a little more, there's a little more spice to that. But Sauterne is a sweet French white wine. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see what that does to this.
Yeah, it'll add something different from the Hansen. I'm sure it'll be interesting to go side by side here.
Yeah. There's a question here from Adil Shahid. Between the two compared bottles, do both distilleries produce the same amount of bottles for their entry whiskey? That I don't know. They're both micro distillers, right? Civo has been doing this since 2015. I don't know how young Hansen is, but I get him
young. Yeah. They've. I mean, I remember. At the time, my girlfriend and I, we visited when they first opened, and this was like, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. So I think they might have been on the go longer than that, but I thought they were just kind of getting started then. Somebody can again correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not. No, they haven't been around that long. And I know now with our bottles, on yours, it's. I tried to get sort of subsequent bottles. So it's barrel 11. I'm bottle number 12. What bottle are you?
I'm number 9.
Okay. In the Northern Eyes, you're bottle 9. Okay, I'm bottle 12. So from the same barrel. So I don't know how many barrels they released. I know there at least 11, probably more barrels. They released a few barrels of the cask strength. I think they only 200. I think 200 and something, low 200s for the cask strength. So very, very small runs, small
But
batch.
now that I know what the flavors are in this, I know that I want the cask strength.
Yeah,
Sometimes going directly for the cask strength when you've never tried their juice before, it's a bit of a, it's a step up in price. So something around 43 or 42% is a good way to decide whether or not you like the character of the whiskey. Because the cask strength is just going to give you that character, but in a bolder, more
amplified.
beautiful, yeah.
Yes,
So Sivo doesn't do a cask strength. They don't.
and this one's 42.
Yeah. You know, I think that 42, because I have very little patience for a 40% whiskey. Okay. I feel that at 40%, you're just giving me the minimum work you're going to give me for my money. Right. And I feel that at 42, so even 43, you're sort of saying, no, I'm better than that. But why not just do 45? I'll spend the extra $10 on the bottle for 45. Right. I'm happiest between 45 and cask strength. That's where I like to be.
Yeah.
But 43, it's still better than 40. Like at 40, you're not living up to your potential, man.
Yeah, I mean, you think, obviously, there's two sides to everything. You think about manufacturing and running a business and that sort of thing. So you want to create a product that's sustainable and you can have a fair amount of. But that's the directly where my mind goes when I think about 40%. It's like they just wanted to get as many bottles out of it as they possibly could. When I see whiskeys that are, up and above, even like 42, 43, that shows something. And I love 46. That's kind of like a sweet spot for me.
That's your sweet spot, yeah.
Yeah, and like cask strength, I'm also a big fan of, because the cool thing about cask strength is that it's exactly what came out of the barrel, so you get to choose. You
can water it down to whatever you want it if you want to. Yeah. I have this conversation with Peter, who we both know a lot. He's my source for getting my whiskey from Calgary. Is that his dad always buys cask strength and he always waters it down to 40, because then he's getting a bottle and a half for the price of a bottle.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, that's legit.
Yeah.
So shall we give this thing a sniff?
Yeah, let's do it.
Wow, it is so different than the other one. It's like, wow.
Well, I mean, right away, it's like, there's no questioning that this sat in a wine barrel.
That's for sure. Absolutely.
Woo! It's very interesting. It's cool.
Like a dessert wine, though. Because there's a definite sweetness there. I'm getting a raisin thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's like,
yeah.
Like, what are those little tarts called that are, like a raisin filling?
Oh yeah, like
sugary raisin
tarts, or like.
Yeah, but the ones with the is that what they're called? The raisin tarts?
That's what I call them anyway. I don't know.
I'm translating on the fly here, but
I don't know if that's the right name. Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? The filling is raisin and sugar and
yes, and in a little pastry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Butter tart.
Is that what they are?
Yes. I think they're called butter tarts.
Yes.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree with you.
Oh, wow. It's so present. I have never, ever experienced this before. Interesting.
That's nice.
The thing is, yes, it's nice. I don't find it has quite the same everything as the Hansen. It's a little more sort of directed, shall we say, right down that butter tart lane.
Butter tart lane.
I want to live on butter tart lane.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a bad place to go. It's very sweet. I've got a sweet tooth too, so oh yeah, I do like sweet things, and like you said, drink lots of bourbon and stuff, so bourbon tends to be on the sweet side. But that wininess just kind of erupts out of this.
It's boom. And because it's not a rye, I'm not getting any of those notes. I'm not. Oh, I was pleasantly surprised that I didn't get like the anise, the licorice thing that you get with a lot of American rye.
Right.
That puts me off of a rye, so I'm glad that wasn't in there.
Mm,
It's not in the lot 40 either.
no.
Oh, so now I'm getting a bit of apple at the back there. Not at the back. I mean, like under the raisins, there's a bit of apple. Probably because I'm in the fruit sort of motif now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like
A green apple, not like a
yeah,
golden, not
that's
a
interesting. That's
delicious or
funny. Funny you say that because I sort of had pear in my mind.
pear. Yeah,
Pear, green apple. Yeah.
very often for me, I can't figure out if I'm smelling a pear or like a green apple.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Interesting. Wow. That's unique. That I've never.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting like any spice. I was expecting something spicy because of the virgin oak, but I'm
No
not getting
spice.
anything.
No pastry, raisin,
Yeah.
fruit, like just a sweet, desserty kind of nose.
Yeah, and like as I said, tarts, not like not a raisin bread, not a banana
Right.
bread, not none of those big spicy clovey baking bready things. It's
Mm,
I gotta taste this.
let's do it. Mm.
Okay. Okay. Sort of a dry, peppery note at the top, at the very beginning, which I didn't pick up in the nose at all. So I was pleasantly surprised by it. But then immediately that raisin tart or butter tart thing happened immediately.
Yeah, it's immediate for me. I didn't get the pepper note, but I'll try that again. But immediately, it literally raisin bomb.
Yeah.
Awesome. I like it. It's cool.
Yeah. It's very raisiny, very
and I will say, like, I'll have to be, completely transparent here. Like I said, I've opened this bottle before, so I'm well into the shoulder, midway through this bottle.
yeah. So you're getting better than I am.
Yeah, you're in the neck pour, which I'm kind of interested to see if there are some differences that we'll experience, because whiskey, it likes to be around here in the bottle. I find.
Yep.
It's a nice place for it to sit.
You're in the best part of the bottle right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just answering Adil Shahid. Actually, I'll just say, yeah, we hadn't really planned to compare and contrast the single
not so
malt
much a
with
comparison. I don't think. I wouldn't call this a comparison, because they're pretty different.
Yeah. What happened was we did a whiskey exchange, because I live in Quebec and Scott lives in Alberta, and so we decided we would just send each other something local. In Quebec, you pretty much have to buy whatever you can find when you can find it. So I found this and I sent it, and it's a single malt. We were sort of aiming for around the same price. These are both like around 65, 69, something like that. Somewhere between 60 and it's not really a comparison. We figured it would be fun to open the bottles together and with friends online. Because that seems to be the only way that someone in Quebec can hang with friends these days.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's interesting because none of my usual sort of touch points are happening here. I'm not getting a big caramel note, not getting a big butterscotch note. It's just that the sort of the crust on those tarts and the filling in the tarts is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I think maybe what I was thinking of as a spicy thing is just sort of the dryness. Like the oak finally happened on the tongue, even though I didn't detect it in the nose.
Right.
And it's that virgin oak thing. Like on the tongue, I recognize the virgin oak now that I've had the Hansen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm not getting caramel, toffee, or anything like that either. Again, raisin, a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say that's sort of carrying over, and again, don't really want to compare them because they're different whiskeys. I am getting a little leather.
A little leather
in the mid. Yep.
Let me try that again. Let me see. Now that you've said it, I'm totally going to get it right. But
not in the finish, in the mid.
Okay. Yep. So in the center of the tongue.
Yep.
Not as big as on the other one though.
No. I'm definitely searching for a little bit because with this being so fruit forward, I think that sort of takes precedence. But
yeah.
And it's interesting that you said about the fact that it was raisin tart, like like a pastry form, because that's so true. It's not just like a raisin; it's a cooked in pastry, buttery pastry, raisin pastry kind of taste, and I find that comes back in the finish a bit.
Yeah, it does. It lasts and lasts, but in the finish, very lightly, just at the top, like a snare drum over everything else. There's a wine note. The white wine note is there, but it's very light.
I like it.
I like it too. I like it so much more than I thought I would, because I am so bad at judging. I'm looking at bottles and I'm judging them by the cover, right? And I look right across that bottle. If I wasn't doing a whiskey exchange with you and looking for something specifically made here, I've looked past this bottle time and time again.
Right.
It's got like this design. This is like the most 1994 kind of bottle design.
It's funny though. I posted a picture of it on my social media. And just leading up to the tasting or whatever, and I had a friend. She's she grew up with horses and is she knows everything about horses. She's like, oh, you're okay. I need to have some of your horse whiskey, because of the horse on the front. So I mean, hey, it worked for her.
Yeah, it's good. It's living in Quebec, we have two very, very powerful forces at work. One is a lot of really cool, really artsy, really edgy stuff gets made here. Whether you're talking beverages, especially beer, man, Quebec brewers are addicted to like 8, 9, or 10%. Drop it down to 6, and I'm okay. But like a lot of really cool stuff bubbles to the surface here. But then on the other side, there's a whole segment of this society that will buy anything that says made in Quebec, even if it's the worst dreck in the universe. So I'm never sure what's happening when I look at something that says very, very proudly, product of Quebec. I don't know which side of that we're falling onto. So I'm always a little sort of, and I'm glad that I picked this up because, because it's very good.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's worth the cash for sure. Both of these bottles, I feel, are good ways to spend money on whiskey and support a local distillery.
Which is important now more than ever. I mean,
think so.
Diageo doesn't need my money right now.
That's the thing.
Guys might.
We all like our blockbuster scotches and things like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would, especially more these days, I would look to a smaller distillery, and that's where the innovation I think is going to come from.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that we did this. I'm really glad that you sent me something from Quebec. It's right up my alley to try this, and I'm really excited. Hopefully we can kind of do something like this again and try some different stuff. There's a bunch of distilleries in BC, man, that I want to try.
There's a lot of BC distillers I want to try. I'm dying. Shelter Point.
Shelter Point it's on my list big time.
Mine as well. And also 2 brewers from the Yukon.
Oh, yeah. I have a bottle of their peated, and I believe that's the only peated whiskey in Canada. It's the only single malt peated whiskey. It is glorious, man. I love it so much. I'm hanging on to that bottle to, I've got it down in the spot. I got it down in the bottle where I'm not doing the whiskey any favors. It's just a little
Oh
bit left.
yeah,
And
it's
but I
like
just
this one for me. I just got a bottle
yeah,
down.
yeah, there you
Right?
go. It's like you just don't want to say goodbye,
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
thing is, this is not a rare bottle, so I may as well just bottle down and buy another one. You
Right.
know. But
Yeah, two brewers. I got to get you some of that sent out, man. I don't know
now
if you can get it in Quebec or not, but
I saw a bottle once. It very much depends on the specific SAQ you walk into, because there are three sort of tiers of SAQ. There's like the ones with a great whiskey section, and then there's everything else. But like right now, I look it up online, and it's not in. There's none in Quebec. There's none. Um, One of the benefits of only having one agency sell the spirits is that if they're out, there's none in Quebec. Whereas in Alberta, if BSW is out, Kensington Wine Market might have some, or Zin or whatever.
yeah. There's a great app that I use out here called Liquor Connect, and
Okay.
and it'll tell me. Now they don't always have it in stock right at that moment, but it'll tell me the liquor stores that are able to order it or that may have it, because everything's privatized out here. For anybody who's not sure of that, so there's obviously advantages to that. There's supply advantages that we're not held back on much of what we can get. But the one thing is that you do have to shop around a lot. Like, you could go to one liquor store and a bottle of I don't know, just pick a bottle of whiskey that you're normally paying $60 could be $90, but then you walk 2 blocks and it's $20 cheaper than you normally pay. So
Yeah.
it's which is kind of, I know it's cool, I guess. It's just part of the way it works out this way.
Well, one thing I definitely noticed about whiskey in Alberta, because I do, well, when the world isn't in plague times, I do, I'm out there at least once or twice a year, is that because it's not one government agency, A, selection is way better, but B, a lot of the weirdness around retail bumping up prices and secondary market and all that becomes real there, whereas it's not here. Like Blanton's is 65 here, 65 in LCBO. In New Brunswick, it's probably even cheaper because they are not allowed to mark up more than 40%.
Okay.
But Blanton's runs $95 in most of the places I've seen it in Alberta. And in the States it's like 200, because what's happened is it's been decided that that's one of the hot whiskeys right now, right?
Yes.
Even though it sure ain't a Pappy, right?
Well,
you know what I'm saying? But
that's the thing. It's interesting. Like I do enjoy Blanton's bourbon. I've drank it for years, years and years ago. I've had Blanton's, and I do like it. It's one of my top, my top few bourbons. It's not one that I buy. It's not an everyday bourbon. For me, I'm more in the Elijah Craig kind of camp for that sort of thing. But Blanton's is a good bourbon. Is it a $200 bottle of bourbon? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
not even close as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, like you mentioned, Pappy Van Winkle. That's I've only ever had Pappy once. There was a restaurant here in Edmonton that brings it in every now and then. It's a barbecue joint here called Meat, and every now and then they'll do
that's
an
a
event.
Pappy place.
Oh yeah, and they'll do an event where they've got so many bottles of Pappy or whatever, and they'll ounce it out. And my brother and I went down and had a few. I mean, I know we paid like $26 for an ounce.
Yeah.
But we had a couple just to try Pappy, and it is great. I mean, it's so scarce, because they had the fire there or whatever. So
yeah, and the thing is, they're not charging that much. It's the retailers that are charging that much,
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like down in the States, I mean, they pay so much less for alcohol in general than we do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, especially where I live. No, seriously, I buy a bottle of Ugadal from Alberta, even after BSW throws like $30 shipping on. I'm still spending less on that bottle than I do here.
Yeah,
It's not equal. It's
Yeah.
still less.
Wow. That's a little bit crazy.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we ruin this one with a
Yeah.
little water?
Yeah, let's try it with some water. I've like I said, I've spent a little bit of time with this whiskey, but not once have I watered it. So we will see.
Okay, let's give it a second to acclimatize to the water. It feels, especially at around this ABV, I'm only watering because I like for every review I water it. It's because it's one of my review steps.
Yeah.
I don't, but what I do is the entire segment after I water it doesn't count for the grading of the whiskey.
Yeah, I think that's smart, man, because it changes it so much. But I think it's smart to do it as well. It's good. I think it's a good service to anybody who's watching, because so many people, one of their first instincts is to water their whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of one of those things like, oh, you don't drink it straight. You have a bit of put a press on it kind of thing or whatever. But I think that is, try it without the press first. Try it without the water. See what you think of it, and then of course go ahead and add some water if you like. But I do agree with you. A lot of the time, it doesn't really necessarily improve the whiskey.
Yeah, it doesn't always ruin the whiskey for me.
Right.
But it kind of does more often than I would like it to.
The nose is kind of subdued the raisin a little bit.
Yep. Brought up something else, but I'm not sure what it is. Like a medicinal? No, not medicinal. There's like a fresh air aspect there, but I don't know how to describe that. It's a little breezier. Yeah. That's a great taste, right? It tastes a little more purple. I mean, I don't know. There's a purple aspect, and it tastes I think spiritual. I like breezier.
Spiritual.
What the hell does breezy
it's a strong suggestion of freshly mown grass. It's I love tasting notes, by the way. Like, I mean, they're wonderful the way they're worded. It's great, and I get it. It's. And I think the thing to think about when you're explaining tasting notes to people is like, if I say like I'm tasting some freshly mown grass or some grass or whatever, I'm not actually like tasting grass. It's something that's reminiscent of grass, and it's the closest thing that I can describe.
Yeah. But I mean, at least that's a recognizable, like, if you say freshly mown grass, I get it. Right. Boom, right there. I get it. There's a whiskey podcast. I don't remember what it's called, but it's these two women, and their tasting notes are amazing. They're like sniff, sniff, taste. This is like a bad date. I don't love it, but I'm gonna see it through to the end.
Oh,
I mean, what I mean, it's like,
yeah.
If you want to know that's like Scotch Malt Whiskey Society level tasting note, right? But yeah, but I'm saying, like, it's
kind of leveled it out a bit for me. It's kind of.
I'm getting like, okay, because I try not to go here with my tasting notes, but what I'm getting, maybe I'm synesthesic or something, but what I'm getting is like the tile, wall, and floor at a public pool.
So a little like chlorine?
Like, not so much the chlorine, but the airiness in that huge damp room.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And as I said, I try to keep this kind of tasting note right the hell out of my reviews, because it's nonsensical, but I work very much with impressions like that. Maybe because I spent my whole freaking life in art school and it makes me kind of cockeyed, but but like not the heat that you sometimes get at a public pool. Like, when the heat's up to, no, it's like it's cool. It's, you know, it's 26 degrees in the water and probably like 21 outside.
So, that's awesome, man. I you know, it's so funny. Tasty, it's so suggestive. Like when you were talking about like a pool. Yeah, now I can sort of I understand where you're coming from when with that. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't necessarily think of that when I can't swim, so I don't spend much time in pools. But I get that air, that sort of humid air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you when I learned how to swim?
No.
I learned how to swim, I think, at the age of like 42, 43.
Really?
Yeah. And it's wait, I want to taste this first. Let's taste this and then I'll tell you the story. Because
Okay.
It's a lot drier now. It's a lot spikier.
Yeah. Still get the raisin, but that's sort of brought down a little bit.
Lot
And
for me. Yeah.
yeah.
But now I'm getting a sort of a greener note. Maybe it's because you were talking about fresh cut grass, but I get something a little more hay-like or a little more vegetal. But the water did it no favors. It's amazing what water does to whiskey. I learned to swim at like post 40 because I was at a pool party on the South Shore, and I was right at it was an in-ground pool, and I was right at the part where it does this, you know, like
Yeah.
Foomp. I was right at that, right there, and my daughter was running around the. At that point, my only daughter was running around the pool with her cousin, who was a year or two older. But her cousin was wearing her floaties, so Camille was chasing her cousin, but her cousin was wearing Camille's floaties, and Camille had been in enough. We started her in swimming lessons at like 6 months, right? So she'd been doing enough lessons to not be afraid of water, but not enough to know how to keep herself up in swimming.
Right.
So they're tearing around, and her cousin just takes a runner right into the deep end, and Camille takes a runner right after her. And I have two memories of what happened next. One is seeing her hit the bottom of the pool and immediately go fetal position, and the next is me somehow holding her whole little tiny body out of the pool at the side of the pool.
Yeah.
And I'm not out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt the weight of her disappear, and I saw my brother-in-law saying, "No, no, no, on fait pas ça. We don't go in the water." And somehow I got the hell up and said, "By the way, I don't swim."
By the way,
you know, and the next day, but that's the only memories I have of it. And the next day, I called and got lessons. I don't enjoy swimming. I hate it, but
that's the thing, though. That's an example of that's dad level stuff, right? Like you're
it's not just bad jokes.
No, man, your kid falls in the water, you can't swim, you're going in anyway.
Yeah,
that's all that's to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had situations similar to that as well. I don't swim. I've got two daughters as well, and they like to, they love the water, and I hate it. But yeah, you're right, man. That makes sense. And now I've never been compelled to get lessons. I should. I'm 40 now, so you could be an inspiration to me. Maybe I should go learn how to swim.
I guess I see it more as a life skill than an enjoyment thing, and that's why we got Camille into swimming as a life skill. The fact that she loves it, and now we've got a freaking pool in the backyard.
Yeah.
But it was just learn to swim so that if you fall overboard on a boat or something, you're not going to the bottom of the lake.
Yeah. The thing about it is I love being on boats. It's one of my favorite places to be is on a boat sailing around. But don't put me in the water. That's not fun.
Yeah. I used to crew on a 30-foot French built boat, just lakes, not blue water, but man, there's nothing like the moment when the diesel engine goes off and it's nothing but the sails.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Talk about sailing while drinking whiskey. Are we not like suddenly sea dogs? I mean, and we both play in like
Celtic
in
bands.
Celtic bands.
Yeah. So we should talk about that a little bit, man. Squid Jigger, it's the band you're in.
Yep.
How are you guys doing? Do you have? I mean, it's a rough time for all of us. I mean, luckily, the band I'm in, the Doreen Harvey band, we're all in the same city right now. So we've had spotted opportunities throughout the pandemic to be able to be in the same room and cohorting and whatnot. But you guys are pretty spread out, right?
Yeah, there's 4,400 kilometers between two of us and Peter, because he lives in Calgary and we live in Montreal.
Right.
So yeah, we're not doing anything. We did a couple of sort of, we recorded a song and put it on Facebook and YouTube kind of thing, but we haven't gigged.
Yeah.
I think David had a couple of David and I are brother-in-laws and we still haven't seen each other. Like we are literally bunkered.
Wow.
Like if you don't bubble with someone and you get caught at their place, you get fined.
Yeah.
So like we haven't seen each other in what we do is Wednesday nights when the kids aren't taking up all of our time, we do a little a little Zoom chat and whiskey kind of deal. But
that's nice. Yeah.
We haven't been on stage.
Is there is there any potential for the magical summer festival that we all know and love? I don't even know if I should say the name of it right now because I don't know. I heard rumors that it may be happening.
But I think it is happening. It
right?
better be happening because I booked the week off work so that I could go.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, if it does happen, we'll be there.
Yeah. I think I'm cautiously optimistic, but at the end of the day, it very much depends on what happens across this country COVID-wise, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, the border between Ontario and Quebec is closed until the 20th of May.
Okay.
I can't cross the border.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, BC has that as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now it looks like we're going, but who knows what's really going to happen?
Yeah, unless things get better. I mean, Alberta right now, I mean, not to particularly timestamp this, because people can watch it afterwards. I assume, right? This will be on your channel, so that people can sort of do a replay. But as of right now, I mean, Alberta our numbers are really high. It's not good, and without talking too much about. It's such a polarizing issue right now. So many people are against it, for it. Obviously, like, I got vaccinated as soon as I possibly could, and
sheep.
Yeah, like
right,
what?
Shut up.
Like actually, somebody commented on my I shared a post on my Facebook post getting my shot. Like, I know I'm supporting this. Like I'm a logical science thinking person, and I was like, get your vaccines, and I didn't even say that. I wasn't telling anybody to do anything. I was just saying like, hey, I got mine, somebody commented, some guy like bye sheep, like bye. Like, what do you think? I'm gonna freaking pass? Like, I'm gonna just drop dead here?
Bye.
Like, all right, man, sure.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so we're hoping to be there and hang with you guys, and we should do it. We should record an episode for each of our channels there.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
just iPhones, right?
Sort of what I was thinking. Like, I was thinking, if you're going to be there, if it's happening and you're going to be there, I mean, we should make some whiskey stuff happen.
Yeah.
Because that weekend is a blast. I'm trying to not get, like you said, not get my hopes up too much, because we've been sort of locked in, even though we've had there's been a lot of half measures happening here in Alberta, and we've been able to do certain things, and everything's not completely locked down. For the most part, I've personally been pretty locked down. I haven't done much of anything, and I would really love to get away for a weekend.
So would I.
Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, if it happens, then we got to do something whiskey related.
Mm-hmm.
So of these two bottles, if you were to pour yourself a second dram,
Uh-oh.
which one would you pick? Like, because I almost feel it would depend on my mood.
I think absolutely. Like, it's hard to say. You know, they're both so different.
Yep.
I actually surprised me. Like, I've tasted them both previously, but back to back, like side by side, like that, I was super shocked. As soon as I started nosing the Maison Civo, I was like, wow, okay, it
Yep.
came to me how crazy different these two whiskeys are. So it
Yep.
would depend on the mood a little bit for sure. I think overall there's more sweetness with the Maison Civo. I think if we, I mean, I don't know, if we talked about like overall maybe complexities, there's probably more complexity in the Hansen for me.
Yep.
So maybe a little bit more of a of an I don't know, if I'm in that mood to kind of really break down what I'm tasting and experience it that way, I think the Hansen would be what I'd pick. But
I think that as a, like, I don't have a daily drinker. Okay, I don't do a daily drinker. But if I had a daily drinker between these two, it would definitely be the Hansen, because it's more of what I expect when I crack a whiskey, like a rye. Whereas the Civo is so surprising and so unique that that's the one that I want to have for like an after supper beverage. And that's partly because of the Sauterne element that's there so strong. I find like a nice sweet wine, like a Porto.
yeah,
No, they're not called Porto. What the hell's what's a Porto called? Port.
okay, port, yeah, okay,
Something like that is to me like it's an after supper thing, right? You don't kick back to relax with a glass of port. You kick back and relax with a glass of red wine or like a whiskey
yeah,
or something. Because of that element in this, I would have this as an after supper whiskey. Or if I have someone over, you like whiskey? Yeah. You want to taste something that's really going to surprise the shit out of you?
yeah.
Yeah, of course I do.
I think it'd be a great one and actually this sort of happened to me. The story with me opening up that bottle of Civo with the band in a situation where we were able to be together. It's not everybody else, like in my band, Drina and Steve, they like their whiskey. Not everybody else really much of a whiskey drinker at all, but everybody had some, and they were all very surprised. They were like, wow, okay, this is not like they thought it would be rough or something, and it's not.
Yeah,
It's
this is a
very
good
smooth.
gateway whiskey, right?
It really is a great gateway whiskey. Yeah, I think it's something
Absolutely.
that a lot of people could enjoy.
Yeah, because it's very smooth. It's very approachable.
Yeah.
And a lot of the whiskeys that I love are not approachable for someone who's not into whiskey like this. I love this. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. But this is not what I'm going to introduce someone to whiskey with.
Right.
Whereas with the Civo, I think this would be, a lot of people would introduce someone to whiskey with the Macallan, right? Because they take all the life out of it. They take all the life out of it and replace it with high price tags. But I would do that with this instead, because this is a bona fide good whiskey. This isn't a middle of the road whiskey.
No, it's
interesting.
Good.
It's
yeah. I 100% agree with you. I think it's and the fact that it's coming out of Canada in a microbrewery, small batch. Like you said, we throw around that word, but it is legit. Smaller batches. I would reach for that over, an overpriced whiskey, a Scotch any day.
Yeah, it's funny because I have opened my horizons on the whiskey front specifically because of COVID. Because I'm not out. I'm not doing stuff for my other channel because I have to get to the forest for that. I'm not gigging. I'm not doing any of the things I usually do, and I don't want to just play video games. And so I've always been into Scotch. I've always been a big Scotch guy, Peathead and all this stuff. And I said, you know what? I had watched a few episodes of Ralphie and realized, why am I not doing that? Why am I not exploring the world of whiskey because
Right.
I was always a guy who liked what he liked. A few years ago, while I was in Calgary, I joined the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. So I've been getting society bottlings, and that has definitely opened me up to different flavors. But those bottles are expensive, dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's not a cheap hobby.
I've got 4 society bottlings back there, and if I had not bought those 4, I would have a canoe today. Okay, so they're expensive as bottles. They're not like expensive like Ardbeg 25, 1,300 euros a bottle kind of, but they're they're all like 150 to more. I have several that are over 200, and it's
that's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, it's too much. I mean, I'm not rich.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a job, but I'm not rich. So like, I'm slowly coming around to the point where, especially because I'm tasting so many interesting things at the sub-$100 note, because I'm not only going for Scotch anymore, right?
Right.
Like a bottle of Woodford is $50, $49.95 in Quebec. And that's my workhorse bourbon, man. I like it. I actively like it. I actively like it the way I actively dislike Knob Creek.
Knob Creek is definitely not my first. I did have a little phase when I was first getting into sort of more like, I don't know, I guess I'll give you the trajectory of my sort of bourbon drinking. So, as I said, as a kid, like, my dad was a bourbon drinker. He always drank Jim Beam, White Label, Jim Beam, and he mixes with Diet Coke. And I would mix his drinks for him, and I used to love doing that when I was a kid. And then as I got into a teenager, I would sneak little sips out of his Jim Beam bottles and get into high school, and we were drinking and that sort of thing. So I started drinking Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, that sort of thing. Jack Daniels isn't actually a bourbon, but
no, it's a Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah, there are a lot of rules that make things bourbon.
Yeah.
And so as I got a little bit older, my brother's into whiskey as well, and so we started drinking some more, experimenting, exploring more expensive bourbons, and Knob Creek was one of the first ones that sort of came across our desk for that. And I tried it, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Like, this is definitely a little bit of a higher quality bourbon. It's not something that I drink much of anymore, but I have a story. So, like I said, my dad was a drinker of regular.
I'm pouring another one of these.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Jim Beam, and so at his 70th birthday, I happened to be in Newfoundland for that. The band had some shows, and I was staying at his place, and I was like, oh, for your 70th birthday, like, you're a bourbon guy. I'm going to buy you a bottle of, a nicer bourbon than Jim Beam. So at the time I was doing Knob Creek. So I bought a bottle of Knob Creek, and I think it was, I don't know, like 50%. I think it's 50%. And so we have a few drinks that night. That's one of our things we like to do when I get back to visit, is kind of sit around the table and have a few drinks of bourbon. Mm-hmm. And so he's doing the same thing, though. He's mixing it with Diet Coke. That's how he likes it. And but it's smoother than Jim Beam White Label.
Right.
And so he's mixing them strong. There's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of Diet Coke going in that glass by the time we get a couple of drinks in.
Yeah.
And it's 50%. So the old man just gets plastered.
Oh.
And I love it. Because I didn't see a whole lot of that growing up. A couple times here and there, but my parents, I didn't see them drinking too much. I saw them drink a lot, but I never saw them drunk a lot. So it was fine. He got drunk. It was great. And all he kept saying, and now you got to remember, I'm from Newfoundland. Mm-hmm. So here's my 70-year-old father from Newfoundland. He said, the Knobby Creek, it got me. He just kept saying, the Knobby Creek got me. And so I do have that's a nice memory of Knobby Creek,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't really drink it much anymore, man. I definitely tend to lean much. I don't actually. It's interesting you say Woodford. Not a huge fan of Woodford myself. I don't mind it. Had it a few times, but yeah, I tend to more. Have you ever tried Elijah Craig?
Not yet. It's in the plan. It's in the plan.
Yeah, that's one to try.
Yeah, I definitely will. I find that if I can't find the Woodford, I'll buy the Bullet because they're sort of within the same area.
Great for cocktails, I
Mhm.
find. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, bourbon is mostly a cocktail thing. The Woodford I will sip. The Bullet
Yeah.
I will sip as well.
Cool.
But I've got so many scotches like that. I just automatically click into scotches sipping. Bourbon is mixing, and I feel that gives us some really good bourbons kind of short shrift.
Right.
Because
there's some really great sipping bourbons out there. If you're out and you see Weller Special Reserve, I think it's a green label.
I'm never gonna see it here.
Oh no,
never. I've been looking.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the reality of living in Quebec. There's a lot of stuff that's readily available elsewhere that I cannot get here. First of all, excuse me, for Deanston, right? The only Deanston available here is the Virgin Oak. I've got one in there, but all the other Deanstons I can't buy here. Bourbon is it's a real crapshoot. And every now and again, I'll walk into, there's an SAQ downtown on, well, you're not going to care what street it's on, but there's one SAQ that's big, and they've got a fantabulous whiskey selection, like really good. But even then, if the agency doesn't bring it in, I can't get it. Like that's where I saw a Two Brewers, but I had already put a something else in my bag, in my basket, something Japanese or something.
Okay. We have a couple. How are we doing on questions here? I'm pretty late to seeing comments, but are we? I see you put one up here. Are we answering this one?
No, I've answered that, but here's the follow up to that, which I was gonna type out. Adil is asking. Okay, the first question he asked. I think in Quebec they sell it at $55. At that price, we have a lot of Scotch options, right? You can still go for it. Is it original enough? Now, what I said is, yeah, you're absolutely right. Aaron 10-year is like a $57 bottle if you can find it here, and it hits way above its price point. Bruch Laddie, the classic Laddie is still under $100, and it's delectable. It's 50%, which for me is, I believe, maybe my sweet spot, the way 46 is for you.
Okay.
But then Adil's follow-up question is, but would you invest your $100 on a Canadian whiskey with all the import options available? And this isn't, it's not an easy answer, but it's an easier answer now than it would have been. Yeah. If we're talking about a Crown Royal or any of the traditional Canadian whiskeys, not a freaking chance. But with the Canadian scene the way it is now, like I'm not going to get a good shelter point for much less than $100, right? Yeah. Like the smoke point when they sell it, it's it's right around there. Here, anyways, the Two Brewers from the Yukon, it's right around 100 or 120.
Yeah, $100 here.
Yeah, I think it's like 110 here.
I would spend $100 on like the peated. I think it's Release 19. I mean, they've got a bunch of them, but Release 19, the peated Two Brewers. That's a $100 bottle here, and it's worth it. I mean, for me to spend $100 on a bottle right now, it has to be a pretty special occasion. I've got a fair collection, but I run that cocktails at home page, and sort of my whiskey budget's sort of been
curtailed.
Yeah, because I have to buy other gins and things like that to make drinks with. Yeah. But still have a fair amount of whiskeys, and that one would be one I'd spend $100 on again for sure. I'm hanging on to that bottle for dear life, but when it's gone, I'll probably try to get another one.
So if that's the only actual peated whiskey here, that one's peated, but the Shelter Point Smoke Point, that one's just finished in a Lafroig barrel or something, right?
Oh,
So
I don't actually know. Yeah, that's a good question.
because I know one of the Canadian ones that's got I think it's the Smoke Point. It's not actually a peated whiskey, but they finish it in a barrel, a Lagavulin barrels or Lafroig or something, so that it gets a touch of the peat.
Right.
But I'm not sure if that's the one. I actually have one of those, but like a little tiny 50 ml bottle,
Okay.
which I haven't cracked yet.
That's a good way to try something
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. I've read so many good things about Shelter Point that I just want to try them out. I know they've got a few different offerings as well, but yeah, I would say that's next on my list for sure.
Other options in Canadian whiskeys that are very good are I have the Gooderham and Worts 49 Wellington. It's like 4 grains, including red winter wheat. I don't know what the hell that means, but they really
the 4-grain thing. The 4-grain thing is big now. That's sort of I find a lot of places are talking about the 4 grains.
Well, specifically the 49 Wellington is a great bottle, and it's pricey compared to a lot of Canadian whiskeys. I have heard that whatever their other 4-grain is not as good. I haven't tasted anything else by Gooder and Worts, but that 49 Parallel is pretty freaking good.
Cool. I have to try that. Yeah, I've never tried it. I've never seen it around here.
Yeah, that's good. And I bought it here at the SAQ. Bareface. I cracked that open and I loved it. And I really wanted to give it a crap review because everything I read about it makes me think you guys are just a bunch of freaking self-important hipsters, right? Their master brewer, stupid. Their master distiller, he's a wine guy from, he's based in San Francisco, and they approached that whiskey the way you would approach a wine, right? So the initial aging is done in barrels, ex-bourbon barrels, but they're so done, they're so tired that it almost doesn't even matter. But then they finish it for, I don't know, a month or something in a red, heavy, fruity red wine barrels from Mission Hill, or one of the wineries in the Okanagan, and then it spends 7 days in a virgin Hungarian oak barrel for a hint of spice. And I was like, everything I read about this just made me think I'm going to buy this and I'm going to hate review it. I'm going to hate buy it. I'm going to hate drink it. I'm going to hate review it. And it's going to be like, and then I cracked it open. I thought, well, piss.
Yeah,
this is really good.
Nice.
It's not the pinnacle of Canadian whiskeys for me. Not compared to guys like Shelter Point and stuff. I mean,
what's the grain count in that one? Like, what are they using? Do you remember?
No, I don't recall. I have a video filmed about it, but not out yet.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I've got like 8 filmed, but not out yet. I have no time to edit right now.
Yeah.
What's the other one I've had? I have another Canadian back there somewhere. I don't remember. But it's a good time for Canadian whiskeys because
it really is.
I do feel that at some point, all these little, the Canadian scene and definitely the Irish scene, because they've got a lot of new distilleries out there. At some point, there's going to be some shakeout, right? Some people are going to buy each other. Some people are just going to go out of business and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that that's going to create excellent collecting opportunities the way, when some real storied Scotch distilleries went under, but I think that there's going to be some shakeout, but right now it's an exciting time in Canada and in Ireland. That these 2 whiskeys we're tasting here show me that the industry has grown up in Canada because, Crown Royal versus whatever old school Canadian whiskey, does it really matter?
Canadian Club.
Yeah, Canadian Club. It's just, no, it doesn't bloody matter because they're all made for mixing.
Yeah.
They're all cocktail fodder, whereas these are not.
No.
These are sippers.
Yeah.
And that tells me that it's a good time to be interested in whiskey.
Yeah. Let's see. Brandon has a comment there.
I just saw that too.
Looking forward to your Bareface review. Yeah.
I'll just bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon. You don't drink too much whiskey, so you're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it. The thing is, if you don't drink a lot of whiskey, then these smaller guys are the bottles you want to buy, because if you rarely drink whiskey, I feel that every time you crack the bottle, it should be pleasureful. Pleasure. I don't live
pleasurable.
Okay, I was going to say I don't live completely in English. Okay, so
every now and then I forget. Yeah, that like you did. You grow up? You didn't grow up in Quebec, did you?
Yeah, I did. Well, I grew up.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I spent my formative years in Franco, Manitoba, a little town called Saint Boniface, right next to Winnipeg.
Okay.
But at that point, it was still very much a French town. I have no idea if that's still true. And then and then Quebec after that.
Okay.
But like I live with a francophone. My girls are bilingual. We speak what I lovingly refer to as the local throat disease here. You know, when you start your sentence in one language and it switches somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I've definitely heard people do that. I think it's fascinating.
It's like, you know,
local...
Shack.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Shack in New Brunswick, right? They do kind of the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. I call it the local throat disease.
The local throat disease.
Yeah. Nobody else does. That's one of mine. You can use it though. But yeah. So every now and again, I drop a word or I get a completely different wrong. A big one is changements instead of changes, because in French it's des changements. Changements, like
that's a nice word in English too. Changement.
Let's make it a thing. Let's make it a thing from now on.
It sounds like can make like a prog album.
Yeah,
you know, like
prog rock.
Changement.
By the way, I poured myself another one of these.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so it's a good time to be discovering whiskeys. It's a bad time to not have been born epically wealthy.
Yes. Agreed.
You know. Nice. Brandon says, yes, your reviews on these live streams have made me more interested in whiskey, so I've been sipping it a bit more in the past few months. I never knew how much there was to it. And you know, there's the thing, as you know, as a young dude who was all about his peated scotch and everything, I didn't know that either. I knew what I liked, but I didn't experiment, partly because, especially with scotch, here's the thing. You can get a much better whiskey for a much better quality bourbon for $100 than you can necessarily get with scotch. Some scotches hit way above their price point, man. That Aaron 10, which is like $57 or something, that drinks like $100 scotch.
Nice.
The Bruichladdich Classic Laddie, which is their baseline scotch, it's like, I don't know what it is, $70, $80 or something.
Yeah.
That could easily be $100 bottle. But very often what you get for your C note in scotch versus what you would get for your C note in like a bourbon or some of these Canadians is not as heavy hitting a bottle. And so you're at a good time to be starting to sip more, because there's so much for you to try out at like the $60-ish. I don't know, Scott, what would you say? I mean, the prices on many scotches are so much better there, but if you want to start experimenting with whiskeys, would you say around 60 is a good place to start?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think in Alberta for sure. You know, again, yeah, there's some price disparities between Quebec and Alberta, but yeah, like $60, $70. You can get yourself a really nice whiskey, and maybe, and I'm not sure how you're going to feel about this, but there are some whiskeys out there that are blends that I'm not mad about.
Like a Compass box or something like that?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you feel about blends, but the thing about a blend is that they're blended to taste good, and it's not a bad way to get into whiskey.
That's those new school blends, though, right? We're not talking about the Johnny Walker Red.
Not Johnny Walker. No. Now I will say Johnny Walker Green Label is a pretty decent blend. I don't mind.
I've heard that, and in fact, I very much want to try that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I find. But yeah, like I don't know what's an example of another blend that I mind. There's maybe I don't know if I was biased to this one, but there's a great whiskey called Shackleton that is a blend that's about $60-70 out here. I thought it was fantastic. So it's a decent way to kind of dip your toe in and then go, okay, well, I kind of enjoy that flavor, or I don't like that. Because I remember when I first started getting the Scotch, I was like, oh, I don't like anything too smoky. And then I drank a few different scotches, and I got a year or so into drinking scotches, and then I started to go, oh, I like a little bit of smoke. Okay, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, give me the smoke, like give it to me. I want as much of that as I want the peat, I want the dirt, like, and I think that's what happens as your palate develops.
Yeah. Well, some people never become a peat head, right? But
yeah,
it does become a little less foreign. What I discovered as I developed through for me, my gateway Scotch was Lagavulin 16. Okay.
So that's kind of crazy to me.
That's it. Oh, you don't like peat? Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's like talking about jumping in the deep end.
Yeah. And I went from that into like Bowmore, Lefroy, and then after about 10 years of playing around in those lines, I discovered Ardbeg, and Ardbeg is definitely one of my favorite distilleries. If it says Ardbeg on the bottle and I have the money, because then I want it. And it's funny because I then discovered Bruichladdich, and I discovered Bruichladdich through Octomore. It breaks my heart how the price of Octomore has jumped, because I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford another bottle. But I loved and then I discovered the story of Bruichladdich and a lot of the stuff around Bruichladdich, and it's a distillery that I like a lot.
Yeah. Have you watched that documentary on? I think it's on Amazon Prime. It's pretty much about Bruichladdich, the distillery.
Oh yeah, the one about Jim McEwen, right?
Yeah.
What's it called? Yes, I watched it recently.
Man, what a wonderful documentary!
What a wonderful man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of respect for that guy.
A lot of respect. I mean, this guy's almost the pinnacle of his industry, and he doesn't come across like, what's his name, Patterson, the guy from Dalmore.
Oh, right.
Here's how you taste your whiskey. Hello. How are you doing? I said, fuck off. Oh, I just demonetized myself. Well, not monetized, but like, give it a break. And the whiskeys that guy blends, because he's a master blender and everything. But Dalmore, come on, middle of the road.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's Jim McEwen doing his thing, because he was at Bowmore. Sorry, he was at Bowmore for a really, really long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to pick up a bottle. I tried a few different. I bought like a tasting kit of Bruichladdich malts, and they were great. But I want to pick up the classic laddie, I think.
Well, the good news is that's like probably the most affordable one there is.
Yeah, I think it's like $60 here.
Yeah, it's 80
which would be, if for the person asking that question, if you're in Alberta, I don't know where you are, but Bruichladdich, classic laddie would probably be a pretty good buy for $60. Like,
it'd be amazing buy for $60. That drinks like a $100 bottle, man. In fact, I recently put up my second review of that, because my whole thing is one review at the neck pour. Then when I get down to there in a few months, another review there, because that's where it really gets good, right?
Yes.
Like around there is where it breathes, and it's it's been open for long enough that to come alive and everything.
Yes.
Up here, it still tastes a little tight,
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the interesting thing about that classic laddie is there's a code at the back, on the back of the label, because they don't. And this is the beautiful thing. This is why I don't buy Diageo anymore. I don't buy the Lagavulin anymore. I don't buy the whatever all the the classic malts are. I've had a bottle of Talisker before, but I don't respect the way Diageo runs the companies. And Bruichladdich is the exact opposite, because Diageo, what they want is uniformity of product every year, if possible. Every uniformity of color, uniformity of product. That's why everything is chill filtered. Everything is colored. Everything is, or almost everything. Here's
Yeah.
Bruichladdich. There's a code on the back of your classic laddie. And if you enter the code, you will see every barrel of whiskey that went into that bottle. Because what they do is they don't go for uniformity of flavor; they go for uniformity of quality.
Mm,
So if you buy a classic laddie now and you buy another one 10 years from now, I kind of want to do this. I want to go out and buy a bottle and then 10 years buy another one. I'm doing this with an Aaron 10. I have an Aaron 10 that is unopened. I'm going to buy another one 10 years on, and I'm going to open them together and see what kind of flavor drift there was. With the
interesting.
Bruichladdich, I am sure it'll be much, much bigger, like the flavor drift, but that they will both be terrific whiskeys
Yeah.
because they don't aim for the exact same flavor every batch, every year, everything. They aim for the same quality of experience.
Right.
Enchanting.
Yeah, I agree. And the sort of that air of integrity and transparency.
Yeah.
I think that's important in whiskey, and it's starting to go away in some places,
Mm-hmm.
but in other places it's arriving. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. But I like that idea of knowing, like, this is where it came from. This is the process we use. It's in a lot of times it's like a family owned company. I like that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
rather than big, multi-million, $1 million companies owning
Yeah.
a bunch. That happens a lot in bourbon. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of like umbrella company stuff going on, like Buffalo Trace or whatever they own.
Yeah.
So
Well,
many
hell,
different.
look at Jim Beam, right? Beam Suntory,
Yeah,
right? They're owned by Suntory,
yeah,
and I mean those guys own everything
yeah,
practically.
yeah.
I was going to say something. Bugger me, I forgot it. What was it about? We were talking about Bruichladdich. We were talking about how. Oh yeah. Okay. So what's his name? Rainier. Oh, what's the name of the guy who owned Bruichladdich and brought it back from the dead? I don't remember his name, but he
Oh
was the
God.
guy who brought Jim McEwen in. He's opened an Irish distillery called Waterford.
Okay.
Obviously, it's in Waterford, and he's brought a lot of the same philosophies to Waterford as those which formed the current Bruichladdich.
Okay. Wow.
And that idea that you can look at the code at the back of your bottle and see the barrels that went into it. At Waterford, they're uber geeks about that kind of stuff, okay? Every bottle is named, every expression is named after the farm where the barley came from,
Oh wow.
okay? I'm just seeing if I have, and what they have these databases of the weather at that farm for the past, like, every hour of the day for the past 5 years or 10 years or whatever it was, right? Okay, they've got they've got a blockchain system in place so that they can trace from farm to glass everything that went into that whiskey,
Okay.
including, by the way, the barrels, right? Like,
Insane.
they're spending, and they're buying, like, they're spending €1,000 a barrel, right? They're choosing good quality barrels, and everything has this really long term view, but also this really geeky approach to the data.
Right.
Like, these guys definitely have like data geekitude,
I appreciate that.
you know?
You
Yeah.
know, looking at the analytics and sharing the data of things. I think it's cool. It's a neat way to preserve what's going on, and I think, yeah, another level of transparency for the customer. I'm somebody who cares about those sorts of things, so
Mhm.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And they have several different expressions because they're still a very small distillery. Some are only available in the US, some are only available in Europe, some are only available in Ireland, maybe. And we accidentally got a whole, well, Alberta got a whole shipment that for some reason was supposed to go to the States but didn't get accepted. So they went to Alberta. I was at, because virtual tasting, so I can be at the tasting of the Waterford. Can I start that sentence again?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm going to start that sentence again. Okay. Okay.
The drams are good.
And I just, yes, they're very good. Two solitudes here, guys: a Quebec dram and an Alberta dram. Yeah. The Kensington Wine Market, which are the guys who are bringing the Waterford in, they did a virtual tasting. They did it quite late, so that 2 employees at Waterford could be part of the tasting and only be up at 1 in the morning instead of like 3 or 4 in the morning kind of thing. And so these guys, it was their master distiller and one of their marketing people. But everyone at that smaller distillery wears many hats, so that those are like their job titles, but they both have vast knowledge that sort of, she's not going to do master distiller stuff and he's not going to do marketing stuff, but they know each other's jobs well enough that everything, there's like synergy happening.
Right.
I will never again use the word synergy. Okay.
Man, it's a $10 word. I like it.
Yeah, but I consider myself a $100 guy. So anyway, so these people were at this tasting, and it was a very interesting whiskey compared to what you usually see as Irish whiskey, right? Jameson, Bushmill, blah blah. But the same thing is happening there as is happening here, except even bigger. Right? And these guys are doing like this real, like, we have a contract with this farmer for his barley, and his farm name goes on the bottles that his barley goes into. This farmer's barley goes into this expression. That farmer's barley goes into this expression. And the theory behind it is that, you know, this really does have a massive effect.
Yeah.
And I've often said that I'm a bit of a skeptic about, no, I'm more of a skeptic about the water. Right? You know how Ardbeg is like, you know, the peat flows, you know, the water flows through the peat, and that goes, shut up.
Yes.
I don't buy it. You burn the peat to dry the barley, and that's where the peat comes from. Don't give me all this BS about the freaking water and the, I don't know, lake monster. That shut up.
Have you ever seen Lake Monster? Yeah, yeah. Have you ever seen in the liquor stores? I don't know if you have them out there, but like little bottles of like Scotland water, like spring water from Scotland that you're supposed to water your whiskey with.
Oh, no.
They have it here.
I've heard of them, but there's no way that's going to come into Quebec.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting to me. It's like I would never buy that, obviously, but the fact that they're selling like, oh, you can, you know, water your whiskey with Scottish water. Like,
here's the thing about that, you know, like I'm using, this is distilled water, okay?
Yeah.
But I am perfectly willing to tell you that this is ridiculous. I have distilled water because I'm old, so I have a CPAP machine, okay? And you need distilled water for that. So I use it for whiskey as well, because that is what they tell you to use. But here's the thing. If you look at how many distilleries just use municipal water, why would you need to use distilled water?
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't, you know? Tap water should be fine. Even Ralphie uses tap water, I think.
Yeah, I'm fine with tap water.
Yeah, and I should be as well. But for some reason I like the pageantry. You know, I'm using my distilled water. Bloop bloop bloop. So, Jesse, you're an idiot. You know, I'm a lot better at that now than I was as a younger man. Like when I was, you know, in my teens or 20, man, I was the type who'd be reading like Jean-Paul Sartre, because the green-haired lady serving me my coffee, you know, it would make me more interesting to her, kind of thing. You know, I mean, I read a lot of great books back then, but I was that kind of pretentious ass jacket, and some of that still shines through.
Hey, man, I like it. I like
distilled
that part.
Water.
Yeah, a little bit of pretension is okay. I think it's endearing.
Yeah, I do too, because I
Yeah.
need to think that. But yeah, so at the end of the day, though, the point is that I think that this is a great time to be discovering whiskeys.
Agreed.
So, like Adil's questions, man, you are at the best time to be asking these questions because the answers are so much harder to give because there are so many more options than there used to be. We're no
Yes.
longer in a world where everyone's grandpa drank black and white or whatever that, with the two Scotty dogs on it,
Yes.
whatever the hell it's called, ebony and ivory. I don't know. Um, we live at a time when you can afford, in many cases, and really can't anymore, to experiment and see what you really like.
Yeah.
And we're at a time when you don't have to buy scotch to get good whiskey. And I
Oh yeah.
never thought I would live in that kind of world.
There's some wonderful, wonderful whiskeys out there. That
Even
yeah,
in bourbon, the world is
yeah,
expanding. The guys
really.
like Balcones never used to exist.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, for sure. And like we mentioned, off the top of this, like Lot 40.
Yeah,
Um, I think
great.
that's here in Alberta, $39, $40.
35, 30 something. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
What a great rye whiskey for $40. Like,
Hits way above its price point.
no brainer.
Now, what I cannot get here in Quebec is the cask strength
Okay.
or the dark oak.
I've not seen those either.
I know they release these things regionally. They seem to release everything in British Columbia for some reason, or at least the dark oak was in BC. But I've never seen the cask strength here, and I definitely want to see the cask strength because at 43, if it's that good at 43, I want to
Yeah.
taste it at like 52.
Yeah.
Terrific and so affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wanted to tell you. So at the SAQ here in Westmount, you probably don't know what Westmount is. It's sort of an affluent neighborhood.
Okay.
I walked in there the other day, and I'm going to walk in again pretty damn soon now that it's been payday. And they had 11 bottles of the Alberta Premium cask strength.
Okay. Yeah, actually, that's so funny. I was going to tell you as well. I have an unopened bottle of that.
It's delish.
Of the second, you have the second, like obviously that's the second batch.
Yeah.
Do you still have that bottle that you have, or are you looking at going to pick up another one?
I don't, because that was on loan to me.
Oh,
a buddy from work said, "Here, why don't you open it on your channel?" And I said, "Okay." But yeah, I definitely, and it's like $70.
yeah.
Now, granted, that's a lot more expensive than it was when before what's his name put it in his whiskey Bible as the best damn whiskey.
Well, and that was batch one, which I was super lucky to get one of those. It was just a local liquor store. I'd been looking for it for a while. I'll admit I did put some work into it, because I wanted to try it. Like, best whiskey in the world, like Alberta Premium. Like, that's awesome. Couldn't find it anywhere. I walked into, I believe it was a Sobeys liquor store, close to my house, and I was just making sort of commonplace for me to go into any liquor store I was going to go into, and I'd look first and then I'd ask just in case they had something in the back. And I did the same thing at this Sobeys liquor store. I just said, "Hey, you don't happen to have any of the Alberta Premium, cask strength?" And the guy looked at me and he was like, "You know what? We have one here in the back. I'll sell it to you." And I was like, "Oh, cool. $60. I paid for that." I have a friend who sold those on the secondary market.
Yeah. $300.
A few bottles, $500 a bottle he got for it.
Yeah, you see, I really want to taste. I want a bottle of the first batch because I want to taste it, but I'm not willing to. Two things about me that I say on my channel a lot: I don't collect and I don't do secondary market.
Yeah.
Period. Because it's not a $500 whiskey.
Yeah. Well, it's not like what really what is, but
that's a good point, actually.
And I have zero killer instinct when it comes to making money. Like, I've always made it the hard way. It didn't even occur to me to not open that bottle. and to save it or to try to sell it. I was like, the minute I got that in my hands, I like texted my buddy Steve, and I was like, he's the drummer in the band, and I was like,
Yeah.
buddy, I found the Alberta Premium. Like, and we were like,
let's crack this bitch.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I can't wait to taste this. But if in hindsight, maybe I would have held on to it. I don't know. But I have one of the second batches here now, the one that you reviewed. I think it's at 66%.
66%. Yeah.
Yeah. I have not. Have learned. I've tried to learn from my mistakes. I have not opened that one yet.
You may as well. It's never going to be worth what the first batch is worth, because the first batch is the one that was named the best.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, listen, if I had Killer Instinct, see this bottle here?
Yeah.
Okay. 10 years, right?
Yep.
If you just turn it this way, which you can't see on the camera, but right there it says 12 years.
Oh yeah, it's a mistake on the label.
It's a mistake on the label. Now, if I had a Killer Instinct, I would not have opened this bottle, because because I stupidly said, "Hey, Tobermory guys, what's up with that?" And they said, "Oops." But yes, it's 10-year in there. So that means that when the next shipment, like, because these things only appear every like a year, right?
Yeah.
But when the next shipment comes, because that was clearly like a cut and paste error. They were regionalizing the label for Canada, right? English and French.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right?
So they were, yeah. So it's a bilingual label, which it wouldn't be probably obviously in other places. So.
No.
Right.
So like that's probably only in the Canadian label.
Right. Yeah. So that would be a super rare bottle, rare label.
It will be.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't open it. But the fact is, I didn't buy it in the hopes of making some nebulous. You know, I didn't buy it as an investment. I bought it as a beverage.
Yeah. Yeah. That's and that's the way I look at it too. But I suppose it doesn't hurt to try and think about things a little bit more as investment. But I just, it's not where my head goes right away. At first,
but you can always buy another bottle of that batch too, right? Have one to open,
exactly.
One to
that one's not the rare one. So yeah, I'll probably open that one up for sure. But yeah, if you end up getting a bottle of that, we could open them up at some simultaneous situation like this one.
Yeah, because I definitely want another bottle of that, because it was another one where it's just so much better than I was expecting. Because here's the thing about that Alberta Premium bottle, right? That is like some Harley Davidson looking stuff. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you don't hold the bottle in your hand, it looks like a plastic bottle. Right.
Oh yeah.
The label is crass. You know how
it's not cork. It's like a screw top plastic.
It's and you know how beautiful this is on the Alberta Premium. Is like the third rate version of this. Everything on it says third rate, and then you crack the bottle, you pour a little bit, and you're like, okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was what was happening, and I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, the epitome of undersell and over deliver.
Yeah. Because the look of Alberta Premium is so, I don't want to say blue collar, because I'm a pretty blue collar guy in a lot of ways, right? My first summer job was carpentry. I did it for 5 years in a row out in Vancouver. Like I'm not an upper crust guy. I'm not a classy dude. My entire family, man, most of my family lives in Chateauguay, which is there's no reference for you, but they all live in houses, but they should be trailers. Okay. So when I say that it's got a real kind of blue collar look, I don't mean that in the judgmental way, because I respect.
Right. It's not a bad word to say blue collar.
No, I don't see blue collar as a bad thing. But what I mean is, it looks like a plastic bottle.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it looks like the kind of thing, like when my dad was a building inspector after 40 years of being a carpenter, he did the exams and became a building inspector. And, every time you go to inspect a work site in Vancouver, in the city of West Van, you get to your car or your truck or whatever, and, there's a bottle of Crown Royal in the passenger side seat. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Alberta Premium should be what, just the look of the bottle, third-rate look at the label design, that everything. It's just,
Yeah.
really? And then you take a sip and you think, wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be, And so yeah, so I will gladly spend $70 on the batch two. I
Yeah.
won't spend $500 on the batch one. I want to taste it like you wouldn't believe, but I'm not spending that money.
Yeah. I mean, it was a nice experience. We had a great night opening it up and tasting it, and it was great, shared with friends, and which is definitely the way whiskey should be consumed. And it was super flavorful. But do I remember exactly what the tasting notes were now at this point? I don't.
And batch one and batch two taste very different, I hear, which is why I really want to taste batch one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. A sec, I'm just answering Fox it here. There you go. So I mean, such a good drink, man. Such a magical drink.
Hmm.
There's so
Yeah.
much happening in whiskey.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and I mean, we talk about the casks that it sits in for how long, and I mean, really, that has a lot to do with it. I mean, I think whiskey goes in to the barrel clear. They have their they have their recipes and their ingredients that they put in that differ slightly, but at the end of the day, I think the cask and the barrel do so much.
And that's why, like, I feel, in fact, I think they mentioned this in that movie we were talking about, how I've always sort of thought that the pinnacle for a whiskey happened between like 10 and maybe 18 or 20 years. Like older than that, and it's really more of a barrel drink than the new make, in my opinion. But here's the thing: I have not tried very many 30-year-old whiskeys. I've tried a few.
I don't think I ever have. I think the oldest whiskey I've ever tried was a Macallan 21. An old boss of mine, he ran a studio here in Edmonton. He had his 50th birthday party, and his wife brought in some mega heavy hitter scotches, like 3, and it was sort of like a scotch tasting dinner sort of thing that we did. And
Macallan's a heavy hitter in price. I find it's overpriced as hell, but like if ever you want to impress people, the Macallan is where you start.
Yeah, I think she brought in a Macallan 21, Johnny Walker Blue Label. I don't know if you've ever had blue. It's 200.
I haven't had it, but yeah.
And I actually can't remember what the third one was. It might have been an Oban, but it was older. Can't remember exactly what it was, but so I think the oldest I've ever tried is a 21. So not even close to a 30. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what a 30 tasted like.
Well, because they tend to sort of, the whiskey itself sort of mellows into the oak flavors, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing to think about. Can you imagine, like, just the mere thought of a liquid sitting in a barrel for 30 years.
Crazy.
That alone sort of blows my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, like, a 30-year-old whiskey, it also becomes much, I keep thinking about the Bowmore Black, from 1967 or 4, whatever it is, and how once that starts skating 40%, if it hits like 39.8%, it's no longer legally whiskey, right? And so when you get around like 30, 40 years, you're skating the line.
Yeah.
You got to get into bottles pretty damn fast.
Yeah. And I think, like, to mention that the documentary, it's too bad. I can't think of the name of it, but anybody who's into whiskey, and you should check it out on Prime. Maybe I should Google it here and see what the name of it is. But one of the guys,
Golden Dram.
See, I don't know. I got to check it out. But one of the guys was saying, like, a 10-year whiskey is kind of like, that's good. Yeah. Like that's sort of where there's nothing wrong with drinking a 10-year whiskey. And I mean, as we even illustrated tonight, like, even being in a barrel for a couple of years, like 3 years, you get a lot of barrel characteristics off that. And like you said, they are young, they're lively, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. I've just noticed that we've now gone for 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
So why don't we say bye to the viewers? And I think maybe we should do a bourbon next time.
A bourbon, yeah.
Yeah, I
The
think
the Golden Dream. Sorry,
Golden Dream. Yes, that's it. The Golden Dream.
A Golden Dream on Amazon Prime. It's a good documentary.
It's definitely worth watching. So to everyone who is still with us, and everyone who hung out with us, and anyone who might watch us time shifted to tomorrow, thanks for spending your time with us. It's been fun. Nice having Scott around again.
Great to chat, man.
I think we're developing a bit of a tasting panel here. I think if we do bourbon, our buddy Mike from the last tasting will definitely want to be in on that.
That'll be awesome. Yeah.
So between now and the next one, whatever the next one is, stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, and be kind to one another. Good night, everyone.
Cheers.